Hello, welcome. We are inside the Radiantly Alive Woman Facebook community. It's so great to be here with all of you. I am just going to wait a little bit to let other women come into this live. We have a very exciting series that we are starting today. It's going to go on for as long as it goes on, and I'm going to answer each woman's questions specifically around scars. So as you come into this live, just give me a hashtag live, a hey, any kind of just sign and signal that you're here watching. That would be very appreciated. If you are watching this on a replay, just do a hashtag replay. That would be great. I am just going to bring this up in front of me as well. Let me get all my tech organized here. All right, hey Kathleen, thank you. Thanks for letting me know that you're in here and women are coming. So what are we doing in our live today? Something very exciting. I had this idea a few weeks ago and I'm really excited to start just actioning it now. We're gonna do one live at a time, one scar at a time, going into detail about why scars matter on the whole, but also why particular scars matter. And I'm going to go into 3 different components for each live. One will be the physical considerations, talking about the area itself, which may include organs, it may include tissue. It'll be totally dependent on what the scar is, what we're talking about. And then we will have an energetic component, things that we want to think about that are related to emotion and energy, something that's a little bit more subtle than the physical, solid, tangible stuff. And then I'm going to give you ways to start, what to think about, ways to start thinking about how to work with that scar in particular. Why am I doing this? Because there's a huge problem right now in that a lot of women are feeling unwell in a big way or a small way. Maybe they're experiencing fatigue, maybe they have chronic pain, maybe they're suffering from just emotional strain, relationship dynamics, poor sleep, whatever it is. But we don't have answers around how to begin working these things. We don't have a good grip on what's happening. And I have, through nearly a decade of clinical experience, started to help women, but women in particular, orient all of these whys and all of this kind of helpless feeling around what's going on, giving them direction and answers related to the scars that they have on their body. There's almost no education around the importance of scars, and I am trying my best to get this information out, and I am also requesting your help as well. So if you know women who have scars, and there's a lot of us who have scars on our body for various different reasons, start inviting them into this group so that they can get their questions answered too, so that they know that they're not alone in how they feel, so that they know that there's answers to the symptoms that they experience. I would really appreciate that, and I'm sure all the women that are in your life would also appreciate that as well. So let's get into our first scar. Today, inside this Facebook community, the Radiantly Alive Woman, we are starting with the scar related to thyroid surgery in particular. I have decided to do 2 videos this week. I had originally said we're going to do 1 a week, but there's a lot of questions that came in and we might as well just dive on in. So next video, which is going to be on Thursday, is going to be about C-sections. So hopefully I wanted to choose like an upper body area and a lower body so you can really just kind of see the difference of how scars can impede the physical and the energetic, and also the ways that you can work with them. So let's get into this thyroid scar. Why would you have a scar on your neck? So first of all, your thyroid is on your neck, for those who don't know. There could be a variety of different reasons. It could have been that you had a cancer on the thyroid, a need to remove any part of your thyroid for whatever reason. Even biopsies count. Taking cells, like a puncture wound into the area and taking cells out or away from that organ, that counts. It doesn't necessarily need to be like the biggest, thickest gnarliest scar to impact our body. It can be something small, and I'm going to help highlight that. So first, let's just talk about the thyroid. What is that organ? What does it do? It's an incredibly important organ. It rests in our throat, and it covers quite a bit of ground. It kind of has an open kind of butterfly-like shape to it. And hey Noemi, I'm glad that you're back live. Nice to see you. So what does it do? The three main functions that it does is it does metabolism, it does like cellular growth, and then it just does development of the whole human body. It is one of those organs that is important for many different functions of our whole system. It helps regulate the secretion of two very important hormones, which you may have heard about or you may have had your own blood panel testing for. The short form is T3 and T4. And we can have a variety of different problems in our body related to autoimmune, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, and it's all about this thyroid not functioning correctly, and sometimes we need to get parts of it removed. So when we have a scar here, I'm just going to talk about the physical components of having a scar on your neck, what that could do. And I hope that as we go through this, you'll start to like think in the way that I do in anywhere that you have a scar, or anywhere that you know a family member or a coworker or a girlfriend has a scar as well. You can start thinking in the exact same way that I'm thinking. You don't need to have a degree necessarily. You just need to be critically thinking about this area. So physically, I want you to think about, and when you look at the neck, even in an anatomy picture, but even just looking at your neck, you're gonna see that the way that the musculature is kind of set up is very similar to your core, very similar to your abdomen. What do I mean by that? I mean, you have different tissues in your neck going in a variety of different directions. You got some going like longitudinally, some coming like on an angle here, some going on an angle there. And what I want you to think about that doing here and in the core is it's like seat belting you in for all these different vectors in which we move. So that when you move your head in this particular way, you have a certain type of muscle tissue that's responding to that to pull you back to center, to really centrate your head and neck, but all the joints. The more that our joints are centrated, the healthier they are. What makes joints even healthier is that they can go through their full range of motion, whatever that is, go to the right, go to the left, and then rest and return to neutral, to centrated, to like stacked on top of each other in a good alignment, meaning like they're not sheared, they're not in a rotated, whatever kind of position. We want healthy joints, and the way that the muscles function is to promote that. The ligamentous kind of connective tissue, muscle tissue are all there to protect joint, because a joint is a meeting of two bones, and particularly in the neck, we got something super important there, which is our spinal column, which if we don't have that functioning at this level, we actually don't have function of our arms, our legs, and most of our torso. Sometimes not even our breath, depending on where that injury is. The thyroid sits quite a bit lower than where we're interested in as far as like a breathing problem, like a phrenic nerve problem, which is usually like cervical vertebrae number 4, number 5. We don't need to get super geeky like that. I'll try to like rein in my geek here so that it is as palatable as possible. But that's what I want you to think about when you start thinking about the importance of a scar here. It's going through all the layers of the tissue to reach the organ, which is protected by tissue, protected by stuff, to go in there and remove pieces or take a biopsy or whatever it was. In the exact same ways when you like take like when you have a C-section or whatever kind of surgery, we have to go through all the layers of the abdomen. That impedes all of the function of the muscle after. And it is very hard. In my opinion, it's nearly impossible for all the muscles to regain optimal function after a surgery without the correct rehab. With the correct rehab, everything's fine. Everything goes well. My version of proper rehab includes scar work, obviously so. And so we want to think about that on the physical way, in the physical component with the muscles. Then we want to think about something I am very interested in and talk about a lot is the fluid systems, our lymphatic and our circulatory system. We want those systems to be functioning optimally for a ton of different reasons. So we get hormones going in the right direction at the right volume at the right time, so that we have a control of our ability to regulate inflammation, getting different types of proteins, neurotransmitters in and out of the correct area. There's a ton of benefit to having your blood and your lymph going and functioning optimally. And when this area is impeded, this is a highly vascular, highly circulatory area. If anyone has ever cut their neck or their head, they'll know, or they'll see someone who's got a cut on their head. I used to work provincial level rugby, and they used to just like bang heads all the time, and it was a mess. And that's because this area is incredibly vascular, because, hey Anne, because we need to be moving stuff in and out of the head very quickly, because our mind is here, because our senses are here, because we have a lot of need to have quick input, like quick reactivity in our head and neck. That is just the same to say with the fluid systems. Our skull is probably one of the only areas in our body that's like closed, like it's a complete close, like a cranium, and it doesn't really respond very well to swelling, which is why people can drop into stuff like comas and concussions where they lose consciousness. So we want to make sure this area is like really functioning well. Scar tissue impedes that. And it's not to say it impedes it in a scary way, but I just want you to understand the degree of importance that your neck has on controlling your head because of the muscles, keeping the health of the joints stacked on top of each other. That's why I'm doing this. And then thinking about the fluid systems, wanting the circulatory system to work well, wanting the lymphatic to work well. I spoke about in other videos how like right here behind our collarbones is a prime dumping ground. It's like the final point in our whole lymphatic system that it returns back in to be like recycled and rejuvenated. It's like right here. And if we have congestion here because of a scar, it's not going to be working optimally. So what will you potentially be feeling if you have this area, a scar here because of a thyroid surgery? A ton of stuff. You may be feeling like brain fog, like chronic kind of fatigue. You may feel like you're just kind of dragging your feet, like you have this kind of exhaustion going on. You may feel stuff at your senses, like altered something or other in your eyes. Maybe you have dry eyes, different types of like congestion in your nasal passages because of your nasal passages and sinuses are all part of your skull and how that's moving. Obviously, you could also have ear stuff. This huge muscle here, called your SCM, comes and attaches like behind your ear and goes right into your sternum here. So it will affect your ear. It will affect your hearing. It may affect like the amount of earwax that you have or buildup, infections, and so on and so on. It could also give you a lot of chronic tension. It will most likely give you chronic tension in this area. You may feel like you have knots all the time and you don't know how to work them out. You may feel like you have poor posture because the scar will start to like pull you in like this, giving you like a rounded kind of experience of your body. You may feel like you have shoulders that aren't doing so well. You may even feel that you have stuff like wrists not doing so well. One of the things that I like to teach people that nobody really talks about is, what do two arms have in common? If I have two upper body issues, like two wrists that are hurting me, two elbows that are driving me nuts, what's the main thing that connects them together? What's the common thing? It's what they plug into. What they plug into is your neck. What they plug into is your thoracic and your cervical spine. So you can quickly, in my world, I'm always going for like top priority areas of interest. You're gonna never find me dilly-dallying in on elbow pain. That to me is a complete waste of time if someone has a scar because of a thyroid incident, whatever the problem was at the thyroid. we need to think smarter. And the way that you're going to think smarter is starting to think about scars. So you'll have like tendonitis, chronic tension, things going on in both arms. Yeah, there you go, Anne. Stuff goes on in both limbs. If you have that going on, 2 shoulders, 2 wrists, 2 elbows, you're going to trace it right back to your thyroid. And it's nice just to see people going like, oh yeah, that's me, because it's the truth. We just don't learn how to think like this. And just through my experience, I have learned to just think really smartly and go for high priority things. So those are the kind of symptoms that you may feel kind of physically in the area. You may have a challenge to breathe. You may also feel like there is like maybe you just talk differently, like your voice changed. You feel more strain, or like your voice fatigues easily. Like if you, I don't know, have to do a weekend event for work and you're having to do a lot of networking and chatting that you're not used to, your voice may fatigue more quickly. There's tons of stuff. People have trouble swallowing pills after this. It's all because of the congestion and kind of jamminess in the thyroid scar itself. Obviously, so there's like teeth stuff, jaw stuff. The more we can start to think smartly, the better. So I want you to think about that as the physical area just here. Of course, a scar in the midline, as you hear me talk about so much, can impact the whole body. It can throw off your digestion, not only because of it being in the midline, but because the thyroid itself had a very specific job, and depending on the issue, whether it was an autoimmune or a hyperthyroid issue, that stuff may be impeded now. And we want to work to resolve that, improve that the best that we can. Sometimes you have to take medication for it, and sometimes there's ways to go about it in an alternative method, depending on the person. Okay, so that's the physical for now. I want to just keep it super succinct. Then I want to talk about the energetic component. So what am I talking about when I'm talking about energy? I don't want you to think about energy in like a kind of a woo-woo, out there kind of abstract way. I want you to think about energy as emotion. I want you to think about energy even like as your thoughts. Energy has like a subtle kind of feeling to it that just like a thought can come in and then come out. In the same way that an emotion comes in. Something happens, I get angry, that thing gets resolved, anger's gone. I want you to think about emotion and energy like that, same with your mind. In like traditional yoga meditation, we think about the mind as a component to our energy, because what we think about, we become, as we've all heard that saying. So let me just, so this is a great little point. I'm just going to pull this up, Kathleen. So Kathleen says, interesting, I have a bilateral arm issues and have a scar on my neck from cervical spine injury, so focusing there makes so much sense. Yes. It's the perfect way, the perfect thought process, and it's going to save you so much money trying to resolve these hand, arm, whatever it is, issues in traditional methods. Not to say that there's anything wrong with them, but just the physio or the chiropractor or whatever it is that you're doing, they're not taking in consideration that the point at which they are their most stable, like how stable and resilient and adaptable your spine is, will greatly impact your limbs. If your spine is impeded, if instead of it functioning at 100% in this area, maybe it's at like 20, your arms are gonna feel that as well, because that's the only way that they're attached into your body, is through your thoracic and your cervical spine. So yeah, that's a great point. I'm going to speak specifically to Kathleen's point about cervical spine surgery because it's slightly different. So as if you're hearing me talk about this and you're thinking like, okay, I have a scar on my neck as well. It's not quite thyroid, but it is something else, like just a cervical spine surgery. For example, when they go through to get to the spine, they're like going through a lot more stuff. Their entry point and the tissue that they're impacting will be different. So it's kind of, it's very similar, but there's like much more little like intricacies and refinement that I can offer you as well. So if you're listening to this and you think you have a lump that was here that got removed or something else, you had something else in your neck or your jaw or something nearby, write it down in the thread. There's an announcement thread going on right now that I left there. It's going to stay there inside the Radiantly Live Woman announcement board, so that you can just start putting the scars down, so I can address them one by one, so you can start really seeing how your scar is impacting your body. Okay, so that's the physical component. Now, so just talking about energy, thinking about energy as something, I want you to like feel it from a grounded way. I want you to feel like really connected to energy in a way that makes sense. Something that goes in and out. A thought goes in and out, emotion go in and out. Not so much like the airy fairy fluffy way to think about energy. I want you to think about it as, in this case in particular, emotion. So if you had a surgery because of a thyroid, a cancer, for example, and the surgery was like, we think this is like, we'll think we have to take 30%, but we don't know. We might go in there and take a lot more. We have no idea what's in there, and we'll take what we need, and that's to keep you safe and healthy. If that's the kind of dialogue that you get before your surgery, of course you're gonna be freaked out and scared. Like, that is a given. There'll be part of you that's terrified. Whether you wanna admit that or kind of connect in with that or not in the moment is totally up to you and ranges person to person. But the fact is if you're going in for a surgery and there's a fear component involved, a fear of dying, a fear of, you know, losing your natural body function to whatever capacity, yeah, there's going to be a lot of emotion wrapped in there, and the biggest one will be fear. And we need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge that is part of the incident, part of the experience. That was the before, and maybe actually during the experience you're having that kind of energy expression while you're unconscious. That matters, because that's going to be in the scar. It's going to be lodged in there, and we need to address that after, like now, in our addressment of scar work. So that's the main thing I want you to think about, but there'll be particular things to you, and why I said before, during, and there'll also be an after phase. So maybe your healing didn't go well. You know, there's a variety of different reasons. Like the healing didn't go well because maybe it was really hot out, or maybe it was really cold out, and like you were like wearing a lot of turtlenecks and like got infected. Or maybe it was really hot out and you were like really sweaty in that area, and it got infected a few times. It could have, like the stitches could have opened up because you got really sick and you had a cough. You know, there's all of these different variables that you need to think about in your after, and the emotion. Like maybe you were really upset, like once the surgery was over, and you didn't let that expression, you know, be felt before the surgery. And after it happened, it was like, whoa, tidal wave kind of hit you. So you need to be really in touch with that emotion for you, and there'll be more than just one. I'm just pointing out fear as the main obvious, but there'll be more. There'll be tons more, depending on how you use your voice. Like maybe you are a speaker, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, and you feel like you've lost that capacity because it's right over your voice, and you're noticing your voice sounds different. That will impact you, absolutely, and you need to address those and be conscious of them. The other thing I want to talk about is our neck being like a kind of a gateway between how our connection to our head, our mind, and our heart. And the kind of cross path there is through the throat. So when you have a scar through that area, there will be just energetically, potentially problems with your throat, like with your voice, communication, voicing yourself, speaking your mind. All of these things can start to kind of just manifest and get all stuck and gunky in there. How you communicate from your heart, how those two areas, mind, your thinking, your processing, your intelligence, your cognitive function, is connected to your heart. Do you speak from the heart? Are you comfortable, and do you share your emotion? How does that feel for you after the scar? It may be different. It's oftentimes different, and you need to also notice and feel into that for yourself, because this is really like a pretty deep communication channel that runs from our mind to our heart, and you're passing through your throat center. So that's the energetic component that I want to touch on. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to say. So think about your voice. Think about your power to communicate and to connect. How do you really show up in a vocal kind of communicative way? Is it changed? That would be something very interesting to think about. And then the final component here that I want you to think about is just how can we start with scar work? What do we need to do? I always give the first step, and you have to do this step. If you don't, you're missing a huge component, and you're missing the preliminary foundation of building a relationship with your body, with the scar, but you also may bypass and find yourself in too deep too early, meaning like you may start doing something before you were ready, and that doesn't go well. It kind of catches you off guard, and sometimes it freaks people out, and I don't want that for you. I want you to do this part first, and you have to do it. Even if you did it, you've heard me say this before, and you did it for another scar, but you haven't done it for this one, it doesn't matter. You need to address each scar individually because each thing happened in its own isolated time period. So I need you to connect with the scar in a couple different ways. The first thing you need to do always is just touch the scar. You need to use your sense of touch to connect to the thyroid scar, closing your eyes, relaxing into just how it feels, and picking up two different components. The physical component of how it feels. Does it feel ropey, knotted, congested, hard, whatever it is? Feeling that, you can it doesn't need to be like your hand just glued here. You can feel into it. Maybe you're lightly touching it. Doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're using your sense of touch. It just brings it more full picture for you to engage your sense of touch as you're doing this exercise. Physical component, and then you need to address the emotional kind of severity that is in the area. How does it, just touching here, what comes up for you? Does the fear come up? Does all the before surgery stuff start to come up? Is it there could be something that comes up actually during the surgery? Maybe you came up out of anesthetic and you woke up in the middle of your surgery and you panicked, and you feel that panic when you touch your hand, have your hand here touching. That's normal. That's okay. Or is it more of an after thing? I now have to I had to change all my clothes, and I can't wear this type of clothing now because I feel really self-conscious. Or now, whatever it is, I don't feel that in touch with my ability to communicate or to show up in the world and express who I am. Is that it? And you're doing all that just by touching, just breathing slowly, smoothly, deeply, eyes closed ideally, and picking up those components. Okay, you have to do that every single time you do a scar work. Please do. It's so important. And women who miss this step often catch themselves off guard and kind of accidentally, jump into something that is very intense, and they didn't know that was going to be there. The thing with scar tissue and scar work is we don't know how powerful it is. Nobody has told us this before. This is the first time most people are hearing about it. And me speaking about it kind of very holistically is probably the first time. Maybe you heard, just give the scar a bit of a massage for a few weeks after your surgery and you'll be fine. But I'm telling you all the things that I want you to think about. And so please just do this step. If you can make me proud on one thing, do this. Okay, then the next thing I want you to do, which I haven't shared before, and this is specifically oriented to the thyroid scar, what you want to do is you want to start moving your neck. The neck can only move in 6 different directions. That's all it's got. If you watched any of my flushing videos, you'll know these directions. There is a sagittal plane movement, which is a forwards and backwards movement. Okay, you can only flex your neck and extend your neck. That's 2 of the ranges. And then the other 2, there's a frontal plane movement, which is side bending, drop an ear heavy. Let me get my shoulders out here. Drop an ear heavy to one shoulder. It's to my right in this video. Drop an ear heavy to the left. That's 4. And then you can rotate to the right and you can rotate to the left. That's all we got. That's a transverse plane movement. So we got sagittal, forwards, backwards, frontal movement, side bend right, side bend left, and then a rotate right, rotate left, transverse plane movement. You need to do those and use them as an assessment and as a therapy. This would be the preliminary thing that you need to start doing. And there's a lot of detail to these movements, even though they seem really simple. But just as a little stepping off point, I want you to see how I'm side bending my head. You can see my head moving and my eyes moving. But look at my neck. Look at my neck, particularly from here. Is there really much movement going on? Or is it more like the top of my neck is moving a lot and nothing's moving down here? Hopefully you can see that these couple vertebrae 1, 2, 3 probably, are moving like pretty good. Nothing is happening down here. I have the perfect neck to show you like what would happen with a thyroid scar. It's gonna be very dense. It's not gonna move well. You'll be moving really well from a few segments of your neck, probably, and really poorly from a few other ones. The ones that are in line with the scar will be the area that moves really poorly. So you gotta train that into your body and get in front of a mirror, film yourself, and watch your range. And you wanna start to have the whole neck participating, and you want to see that your muscles are reacting. If you're moving your neck around and your neck is like just no muscle engagement, that means you're not forcing your muscles to do anything. You got to put yourself in ranges so your body goes, ooh, that muscle needs to make sure that I can pull my neck back on. And then the same thing here. Ooh, when I side bend this way, this muscle is going to stretch out like an elastic and then recoil back to pull my head straight. So there's all these little details that I do that I get really clear on when I work with women. But for you, just check on your 6 ranges. Use that as an assessment and as a therapy, meaning do it to see how you're moving, where you're limited, where one area you're moving a lot and the other area you're not moving very well. And then apply what I just said as a therapy. Get your body moving through those 6 ranges in a very full way so that this scar starts to get stimulus, starts to get pulled on, starts to stretch and compress because of the movement that you're doing at the neck. And that's the preliminary thing that I wanted to share with you as an add-on to the first step, which you definitely have to do. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about a thyroid scar? I would love to hear them. Whatever you got, let me know. If you don't have a question now in the live, but something happens, like something just comes up, maybe you've been experimenting or you've been doing it yourself, and as you go through it, you're getting questions, just send me a message here. Put it inside this video, or you can ask me a question on another video just about it as we go through. But make sure you ask these questions in the community so that other women who have thyroid scars can see your questions, can see my response so that they can benefit as well. It's really important that that step happens. Do it as a nice to all the other women in this group. It's a very kind thing to do. If you don't feel like sharing, just send me a private message and I would also be very happy to help you if it feels just too uncomfortable. I totally get that. That's fine. All right. So I don't see any questions here. Hopefully that was a great little learning opportunity to learn about the thyroid, the physical components that you need to think about in regards to having a scar because of a thyroid surgery, the emotional components, all the kind of energetic components of that, and then what to do about it. Step 1, always the same. And step 2, I gave you 6 different directions and movements that you can start to implement so that you can start getting some movement into this scar via those 6 different vectors: sagittal plane, frontal plane, transverse plane. All right, I don't see anything. I'm gonna leave it here for now. Thank you for joining me live. It was so wonderful to be with you. And I will see you on Thursday at this same time, 12 p.m. Pacific time, and we're going to go over C-section scar. All right, see you.